Welcome, welcome everybody into the Sideline Fantasy Football Post-Draft Pod. We got myself, Eric Fulman, three-time champ, and we got Jordan Charles, zero-time champ. But that's all right. Your brother's got one. It's fine. It's no big deal. Just kidding. How you doing, Jordan Charles? Or Tyler Penny,
Uh,
it says on
yeah,
here.
Tom
But
over here. But pretty good. Got our draft done. Always a fun time. It was very fast this year, very
yeah,
surprising for it to
yeah.
have run, so quick. But I think it helped because we had three people missing at some point in the draft for like the first four rounds. So that
Yeah, what
sped
the
things
hell
up
was that?
pretty early. I don't I don't know. Jay couldn't get into the draft. Dana's had a wedding, and then Rob says, I'm ready, and then forgets. So I don't know how these things happen. Obviously, we'll go over their teams
Oh,
once we get into it, but yeah, we'll see how auto draft treats some of our league mates here.
how crazy is that? I'm sitting here thinking, man, I'm going to headline the show. I'm going to say, guys, it's year 10. Most of us have been in here 10, 9, 8, whatever. It's been a great league. I can't wait. It's 10 years. And then 25% of our members are missing during the draft.
Yeah,
I mean, Dana
and
did
what
show up after a few rounds, but Jay couldn't get in. I don't know what the heck that is or means. And then the Rob one kills me because Rob literally says it's time, like the minute the draft starts, and then just disappears.
yeah,
But hey,
so
life gets in the way. It's fine. He's a two-time champ himself, so maybe he can turn what he has into something, right?
I hope so. I mean, again, we'll go through it all. We'll break it all down. We'll be here for like 4 or 5 hours. So strap the fuck in.
Yeah, yeah. Well, not no. Good, nice one, nice one, nice one. We're gonna try to keep it chill, right? Because you got to be gone when we got to be gone in like an hour 20.
I've got a draft in an hour and 29 minutes.
So we're gonna be efficient here. We got this. All right, here we go. So we're gonna break down the teams division by division, like usual. We're gonna go through your team. We're not every single player. We're gonna give a nice little summary what we like, what we don't like, and then yeah, we're gonna give what we have them in the power rankings. So it'll be interesting what we got here. And you got playoff teams and everything, Cram.
Yeah, I do. I don't have a draft recap, as you can see.
Yeah, has
Very
anyone gotten
surprising
that
they
yet?
took so long. It
Yeah,
usually is, within an hour or two or whatever, but like
right.
almost 24 hours now. Very surprising.
And you hit on it too. That draft went quick too, man. Like, before we totally dive into the teams, I didn't really feel like there was any like shocking, super bad surprises though. Like, it's not like anything was like, oh my god, it kind of went semi according to plan, I thought. But
Yeah, no, I think not straightforward because the only year ever is really straightforward, but nothing shocking. We didn't have any QBs taken early. We didn't have any, kind of a run on players that we didn't know was going to happen. So I feel like it was pretty efficient, but also a lot of parity. I mean, obviously we'll go through it, but I feel like a lot of these teams look the same to a degree.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens here. I think a lot of teams went running backs, a lot of teams went quarter or receivers early. It was kind of a mix of both. So let's kind of dive into it. We're gonna go team by team. Division 1 has the reigning Peter was in the championship, right? He was the champ or yeah, champ.
Yes, he
Yes.
was he was the champion.
Yep. We're gonna break it down top to bottom though. So we're gonna go Jay. We're gonna start off with Jay's team. So let's take a look at that. Jay, you know what? We might as well start with it. He wasn't in the draft. He couldn't get in. No idea what happened. But looking at Jay's team, Krim, start us off here. What are some things you like about it? What are some things you don't really like about it?
I don't like how the computer drafted for him
Yeah.
for the entirety of it. So like that part wasn't fantastic. So I won't really give Jay any flack for that. However, I will say what the computer did well, I guess, is take the best player available because that's kind of what it does. But
You've done
what
enough
I
leagues. You know,
like
yeah.
about his team honestly isn't a lot, just because there's a lot of ifs on this team. I don't. It's hard to find something to like about it because when you're picking 12th, and obviously Jay had a chance to select his slot early because to get 1 or 12, you're going to have to be one of those first couple guys. So back to back auto picks kind of put him in a position where he's receiver heavy, and I don't love the receivers he has. I like some of them, like obviously Puka, Garrett Wilson, Michael Pittman, Smith are your four there, but I just don't like the draft cost of those guys. So hard to find something nice to say about Jay's team, but I can't really find much
You
to
know, it's
like
funny too.
outside of
I was gonna say it's funny too because I was gonna kind of say the same thing. I like all of his receivers, but I don't love any of them. If that makes any sense, like Pittman, I like him. Devontae Smith, I like him. So he still has like a really good receiving core. But then you throw in Mozart, who's 32. He's not going to score 21 touchdowns again. Warren, whatever. Anthony Richardson though could be a top 3 quarterback in fan of this year. See this year, so maybe him and that Pittman stack is something. But overall, bench, he's got a lot of tight ends. He's gonna have to do something there. Brown does have some upside on Kansas City, but everything else is just kind of eh. I mean, it is a bench. That's kind of what some benches are, but I am high on Anthony Richardson. I am high on Pittman. I think that can be a nice little combo. Like I said, kind of in the chat prior, Anthony Richardson, if he's healthy, that's a big if. Again, coin toss.
yeah.
He can score a lot of rushing touchdowns, but I'm kind of low on Nakua. Like I said, Tyler kind of said it in the draft chat yesterday too. Like it's not that I don't love Nakua. I just don't like him as a first round pick. It's just tough for me to get there, and I could eat my
Yeah.
words, but I'm kind of against those
Yeah.
guys. So
I
overall,
just think that,
yeah.
yeah, if Jay's here, the draft goes very differently, in my opinion, because that turn is so crucial. But knowing the computer was going to take the best two guys and put them in a position where obviously we'll get into it, but I feel like if there's a team that needs to make a trade before the season that isn't me, it's going to have to be Jay because those running backs, you I you can't trust them full fledged to be your RB1 and 2 for the entirety of the season. You
Uh,
can't trust them to be the only running backs on your roster. He has two running
oh yeah,
backs
good
on his
point.
roster.
Wow.
It's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Raheem Mostert and Jalen Warren,
And he's
who
32. Yeah.
aren't guaranteed any sort of volume in their offenses, and
Hit my
they're
line,
kind of
Jay.
on they're kind of on this different spectrums. One's in a very good offense, one's in a very bad offense. So that
Yeah.
is very concerning.
All right. Overall, then, just tell me where do you got Jay in your? Do you want to start with? Let's do over. Let's start with division power rankings. Where do you have him ranked in the Division One, Krim?
Uh, Division one is simple. I have Jay clear cut sixth. He's the worst team in that division.
Okay.
The auto draft was not good to him.
I also have him sixth. I'm gonna say his overall side. You know me, I like my sideline records. I know they're out there. It's just me having fun. He is entering his 7th year in the league. He is 40 and 41. 2 playoff appearances, but in those 2 playoff appearances, he did get a championship. So he is a champion in this league. So again, he's got the pedigree. We'll see if he can go out there and get it going. So we'll see if he can do it, Jay. Sorry you weren't there, man. I don't know what happened, but good luck. Let's go to the next team in the division's kind of top bottom. That's kind of how we'll do it here. The next team will be, I believe, Seafells here. So let's go to Chad. Let's go to Chad's team. Kind of same question, Krim. Lead us off. Chad's team. What do you think?
Chad's team is night and day when it comes to him and Jay comparing the two. I like Chad's team a lot. I like Chad's team a lot. I starting the draft off with Amon-Ra St. Brown, gonna get a plethora of targets. He's the number one in that offense, which is a pretty good offense to be in. So I don't hate obviously your first pick. Second pick, Drake London. Not a big fan. Again, it's because it's the Falcons. They suck in general. But with the new quarterback, he can be an improved pass catcher. So I don't hate that. And then just overall with your running backs, James Cook, big fan of James Cook this year in a good offense. He's kind of the lead guy there with nobody behind him pushing for carries. And Najee Harris, I don't like Najee really ever at all any point in time, but this year I feel like his price is where I would have taken. He doesn't cost you a good draft spot. He's going to get volume as he always does every year. So as your RB2, I feel like he's a pretty good pick. And then I really like Malik Neighbors. I mean, he can be hit or miss. He's going to be very good or very bad. The offense is very. I mean, Daniel Jones leading it is pretty trash, but I like the splashes Chad has on his roster, and ceiling wise, these players have a lot of room there with his starters and his bench. I mean, Singletary is a starting running back right now for the Giants, and he's on your bench. Gibson, I feel like in New England fashion, he can be a
Yeah.
guy that's involved. And then Jalen Wright, one injury to Raheem Mostert or HN, and we know those guys can get hurt. He has value, an immense value, I feel. So I like Chad's team a lot. It doesn't look sexy at first glance, but I think when you break it down, it actually has a lot going for it.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously got probably a top 3, 4 fantasy quarterback that you can probably guarantee. You wonder if the Kansas City might run the ball a little bit more this year, if they trust Pacheco more, who knows? But you got to love Mahomes. Obviously, the receivers. Amon-Ra, you could argue, could be the best receiver in fantasy this year. Drake London, again, with Kirk Cousins going there, I think you're going to see an improvement there. I think I'm high on Neighbors. I think he could get a grand even with Daniel Jones thrown to him. We know what Terry Scary can do. So he's got a lot of dudes. And Joku finally broke out last year and had a really good season. So he's got 5 pass catchers that are going to probably get it done each and out every Sunday, all the time. So I really do like that. You know me, I'm not a Najee Harris fan. Buffalo doesn't run the ball very much, so who knows what kind of question marks are there. But I do think you're right in where he got them in the draft. They weren't bad values. Najee's a workhorse, probably still gets some goal line touchdowns, which saves his fantasy value. And I agree with you. I think the bench has a lot of upside. I even think you kind of nailed it on some of those running backs. I won't repeat it, but also like DeAndre Hopkins, like why not on your bench? Like I guess I know he's getting older. I totally get that, but at Tennessee, Will Levis is going to need a guy to trust, and Curtis Samuel. I mean, there's a lot of question marks on that Buffalo Bills receiver depth chart on where people line up. So Curtis Samuel could definitely be in that mix. So I like Chad's team a lot myself. I'm gonna have him ranked second in the division. Where do you got him?
Yep. Yep. Same thing for me. I have him ranked second. I like his team a lot, and I feel like it's tough to beat it out, but as we both say, there is one team ahead of him.
Yeah. Um, 10 in 10 years, he's an OG team. Chad has gone 56 and 66, second worst win loss in of all the OGs. He's got 4 playoff appearances. And yes, as we know, one of the curses that might need to be broken, he is 0-4 in the playoffs. He has yet to win a game. So hopefully he gets that under his belt. The only team with less wins that have been in the league all 10 years has been Trey. But hey, Trey's got a championship. So I mean, that's a huge difference there. All right. So we both got Chad with a pretty good team this year. Let's move to the next team. Speaking of Trey, let's go to him. Chop Squad. Let's lead off with his since we're here. He's 52 and 70 in 9 years in the league. He's got 1 playoff appearance, but as we just mentioned, in that 1 playoff appearance, he's 3-0 with that championship. So he's your brother. Are you going to be loyal and say he's got a good team, or are you going to say, I don't know what the heck he's doing, I'm not related?
I like his team. Uh, I like his team from the jump going in CeeDee Lamb and then coming back with Rashad White and Achane. Those are it's a good core to start with. I mean, Achane again could get hurt. We've seen him get dinged up, but was a very good piece for that offense. And Rashad White is a workhorse. So you're very safe at receiver with your receiver 1, and your running back 1 and 2 have immense volume ahead of them. So I feel like while the Bucks may not have the best offense, you're safe with that volume. Having the stack with Dak, I mean, I had it last year in a couple of leagues. It was very a positive thing to have for sure. Dropped him in a league that we played in, obviously in our keeper league, but just having any sort of stack is I feel like a bonus. Having this stack is kind of I feel like the stack that doesn't cost you the most, and you can get pretty sexy with it. And then like he got value in later rounds too. Evan Ingram, he picked up pretty late. He was a tight end, what, 2 or 3 last year. He
Yeah.
he was up there. Calvin Ridley in the that offense in Tennessee obviously remains to be seen. We haven't seen them play a game regular season wise, but I like that pick as a flex, you're going to either be really bad and have to play from behind quite a bit. And really, last year, even in Jacksonville, had some value. And then Zamir White, I think, is a dark horse in a sense because he can catch the ball, he can run the ball, but having someone like Madison behind him can eat into his volume, short yardage wise. So I think that it's not the sexiest thing, but he is an RB1 in his offense. Like that's kind of
Yeah.
how it lays out. And on his bench, while he has two tight ends, which isn't the sexiest thing, they're not bad tight ends. So it's difficult to say that they were bad picks because Dallas Goedert and Cole Kmet, I feel like are valuable guys to have. But I would have probably tried to take some more shots at receiver because what you have on your roster is Diggs, Lamb, Ridley, Brandon Cooks. So like you're kind of strapped for receivers. But running back wise, Chuba Hubbard, he's starting for the first 4 weeks. He's beat Miles Sanders out in camp, and Jonathan Brooks cannot play for the first 4 weeks. So for 4 weeks for Chubbard, you have a starting RB on your bench. Will you deploy him over White, kind of see how
You
it
like
goes?
Chubb.
Sure, you can do that. But also with something like a Damian Pierce, again, an injury away, which is everybody can say for anybody, injury away from having a capable running back on a solid offense with Pierce and Brandon Cooks, obviously, wouldn't be the guy that I would take if I'm him to have be my fourth receiver because you're kind of putting all your eggs in one basket and pulling, your best Dave impression with the Chargers, but just doing it with the Cowboys. Now the Cowboys are a better offense, but just would probably kind of have went a different way. But his core I do like a lot. There's a lot of upside there. Um, I can't really say that he did a bad job. The computer didn't draft his team for him, and it shows.
Yeah. I think he's pretty balanced. I don't think there's a huge hole in this team. Zamir, like I said, Zamir White was kind of my big thing where I'm like, I don't love that, but in Oakland or Las Vegas, who knows what's going to happen there. So like, it's not awful. Again, it's your flex. I think he's got four good receivers that could all. I mean, CeeDee Lamb's going to get 1,500, but they can all get 1,000. Again, Calvin Ridley, who knows with Will Levis? It's a question mark, but we'll see. You would hope he would be able to do that. But Diggs, like I said, there's always that thing in Houston. There's a lot of receivers there, but again, it's Stephon Diggs. I still think he's going to go out there and perform. Um, a chain, White, pretty reliable running backs. White looks like the guy there. Again, Miami sometimes is going to have a committee. So that's going to be a question mark for a lot of teams in fantasy this year. There's not many that guys anymore. So it's almost like every running back is going to be involved in some of a committee, but it worked last year for Miami. So overall, I do think it's really balanced. You mentioned Engram being one of the top tight ends in fantasy last year. He does have a lot of tight ends on his bench, but again, like you mentioned, they're both pretty valuable. It is kind of hard to trade tight ends unless they're elite, but at least he's got those options. If one kind of breaks out, he can kind of pivot to one of them. Again, never been a huge Brandon Cooks guy, but Dak Prescott's going to throw for 4,500 yards. So why not have one of his receivers? Overall, I don't think it was a bad job. Like you said, Hubbard on the bench as a running back. So overall, I do like White. I think Engram's a really good pick. And we'll see about Zamir White. Again, Diggs I'm a little worried he could fall into that 2-3 spot, but his diva personality should hopefully keep him over 1,000 yards. Um, Overall, I do like Trey's team. I do, but I think he's going to be fighting for a playoff spot. I have him fourth in the division.
Yeah, I technically have him in the same spot. However, to me, he is 3B in that division. He is fourth, but he's 3B in relation to the team I actually have in third.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see. We'll get to that. All right. So let's move on to the next team. The next team is going to be Pistol Pete's platoon. Peter is entering his 8th year in the league. He came in the same year Kyle did. We'll get to his team later. Peter is 47-47, right at the 500 mark in 7 years. He's made 4 playoff appearances in 7 years. Not bad. When he gets in the playoffs, pretty much gets it done. 4 times he's been there. 2 times he's won the championship. He's 7-2 in playoff play. So if he gets in, he usually does some damage. Tell me, Krim, is his team something to worry about? Did he do well? Or is this going to be one of those stinker years where Peter's out of it by week 5 and says, fuck fantasy football?
I mean, once the draft concluded, obviously Peter, he for whatever reason loves to trade with me, or at least try to drop a trade with me. His message to me was, I don't see much here. We're essentially the same team. And if that's true and Peter feels that way,
Cats.
I'm pretty honored because I feel like Peter's team is the best team in that division. The way it breaks down with your first round pick being Bijan and coming back with Travis Etienne, obviously your running backs are set at that point. Etienne, not the sexiest guy, but he just gets so much volume that it's hard to get away from him. And then following it back with Adebo Samuel, Trey McBride, those two picks, and then Lamar. Like you have your core is there. It's a very good core. Your running backs are solid. Your two receivers you have and Samuel and Rice are solid. Your tight end's one of the top ones in the league. Your quarterback one of the top ones in the league. Your flex positions obviously are iffy with Gus Edwards and Christian Watson, but those are very high risk, high reward guys. So I like his team as a whole. I am very high on a lot of his players. The one low light I think would be his bench: Tank Bigsby, Khalil Herbert, Darnell Mooney, Josh Palmer. Not the greatest of names. Like Tank Bigsby, it's your insurance, but I don't think you needed an insurance for Travis Etienne. I feel like you could have kind of went a different way and took a flyer somewhere else. Khalil Herbert, I know it's a Bear. He's a Bears fan. He wants a piece of that offense. Herbert may still be involved just with Swift being that lead guy. I don't think that you said there's not many guys who are the guy and going to command, 75% of the touches in the backfield. But Smith-Njigba, solid bench piece. Adam Thielen, unrosterable, I think, until you see him get any sort of um, looks, just because the Panthers receiver room is pretty muddled. But his team as a whole needs to stay healthy because you don't have depth there. But if it does, it's a scary team to look at.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's top end at every position. Like I said, I think he doesn't really have a weakness. I think Lamar Jackson's a top 5 fantasy quarterback. He possibly has 2 top 10 fantasy running backs. He's got Debo Samuel, which you can hope can maybe get close to 1,000 yards. Rashee Rice outside of Kelsey, maybe obviously the number 1 receiver there could get to 1,000 yards. If McBride showed what he did the second half of the season, everyone's saying he's a top 3 tight end. Gus Edwards, they're going to run the ball a lot in Sandy. So like I said, I can go through. There's really not a huge weakness here. Christian Watson could go for a grand with Jordan Love thrown to him. So I really like his team from top to bottom. Obviously, really the only weakness, it's not really a weakness, it's nitpicking. Does Edwards lose the job or is it a 50-50 split? But they're going to run the ball out with Harbaugh. So like I said, I'm not really worried about it. Like you mentioned, the bench has a lot of known names. Okay, it's got Khalil Herbert, who should still get some tick. It's got Mooney, Smith-Njigba, who I'm a pretty big fan of. So there's a lot going on there. So I like it. Overall, I think he's got a lot of superstars. I think he's going to have a lot of touchdowns. Rashee Rice should have a lot of touchdowns. Bijan, ATN, you think Lamar running some in, maybe some get taken away from Henry. But I mean, overall, I think this team really doesn't have much of a floor. I think this team should be competing week in and week out. Obviously you could say it's for any team, but like you said, barring injury. So I like Peter's team a lot. I really do. I think Peter's team's really, really solid. I think he did an awesome job drafting, and I have it the best team in the division.
Yep. Same here. That's
Wow.
Chad's team is
Wow.
good. Peter's team's the only one that beats him out.
Wow. Okay. Okay. We got the same thoughts there. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Let's go to the next one. We
This one will
got
be fun.
Rob. Rob, who said it was time and then wasn't there. It
Went at
happens.
it. Yeah, just forgot what time it actually was.
Forgot what time it was. It happens. I get it. Adult living totally. Um, Break it down for me, dude. Did the computer do a good job on this one, or is Rob gonna need to work his magic here?
You got two guys on your bench who are injured for the first month of the season. The first month of the season is all divisional play.
Yeah.
Every game there is a divisional opponent. Not that you need depth early. Obviously, you think that the guys you have, in most positions are pretty, start them every week. But your running backs right now are Ezekiel Elliott and James Conner. Not the worst running backs by any means, but those are your two that you're going to have to rely on now because you cannot swap them out because you have two guys who are injured for 4 weeks. You have Tyler Algier as your only other option. Okay. You look at tight end, Dalton Schultz. Perfectly fine with that in a good offense. It's a late round pick. You're not spending a lot on him, so I'm okay with that. Your backup, TJ Hawkinson, will not play for 7 to 10 weeks. I'm pretty sure that's what that said. So again, a roster spot used for a player who's going to miss almost 2 months. So I don't understand where that came in. Obviously, he did come back and draft some players. So he did pick some of these guys. But looking ahead with Brandon Ayuk, that kind of drives his team. Now, Jamar's your first guy. Kyler, love Kyler. Those two picks are I'm pretty happy with if I'm Rob. If Brandon Ayuk gets traded to the Steelers, your plan of playing Ayuk and Pickens, now you're playing two receivers from the same team every week because you don't have players on the bench to play at your flex position. And then Devontae Adams is Devontae Adams. Like, I just don't, the depth's not there, and you may need it early because you have two running backs who are old and get dinged up a fair amount. Your flex positions and your receiver may be on the same team. So you're going to rely on a offense that doesn't really throw the ball very well historically. And you have three guys on your roster who can't play for over a month. So don't understand where some of these picks came from. However, it still ended up better than Jay's for some reason. So it's very bad. But having Kyler, having Jamar, Devontae, those three guys can win you a week because they can go off. So I'm not writing the team off entirely, but there's not a lot to love here.
It's interesting. Again, I echo a lot of the same thoughts. I do think he has elite receivers. Obviously, Ayuk can go for a grand and 10. Jamar Chase can go for 1,210. Devontae Adams can go for 1,210. George Pickens should be the number one there. So the receiver room is elite. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
It
But
is elite.
okay, so I'll ask you this then. Ayuk, because there's gaining traction again. Ayuk tomorrow, he's in Pittsburgh. How do you feel about the core at that point?
I mean, you still gotta hope that there's, you maybe one drops a little bit, sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't love it as much. I agree. No, I agree. I don't love it as much. But
Yeah,
it's still, I still think it's an elite receiver room. Zeke and Connor, I'm not big fans of. I've never been a James Conner fan, but here's the thing. They might be the touchdown hogs still. So they might not have like a lot of yards or this or that, but they might be the 12 carries for 56 yards and a touchdown kind of guys that just kind of week in and week out get it done. I'm not saying it's great. I still think I even have them. I say worst or second worst running back room. I mean, it's not great, but the upside is they still might be touchdown hogs. Kyler Murray's going to run a little bit. So I do think there is a ceiling to this team that somehow turns out being really well. But like you said, there is no depth. If any of these guys struggle, he's got no one to turn to. Now I actually have that he's got a good bench when Chubb comes back and when some of these other guys come back. But overall, like Brooks, but I don't love the bench because if any of these guys struggle or get hurt, he's immediately going to have to pivot. So
Yeah,
I don't know. Like I
it's
said,
it's just tough. Yeah, the bench is tough because again, Hawkinson on the pup. I'm pretty sure. I'll put
yeah.
this little thing here. I'm pretty sure it said that I saw an update that he may not see him for 7 to 10 weeks.
Oh
And
yeah,
then
that's
Nick
too.
Chubb
That might be too
also
long. Yeah.
they have a bye week 10. So if Chubb's not ready the first 4 weeks, they're not going to rush him back week 5, 6, 7, 8. They'll ease him
Do
in
the
first
10
of
week
all, but then
one.
if you have a
Yeah.
bye week 10, you're probably gonna just you'll wait longer if you
It's
can, and
almost
then
fantasy football playoff
yeah.
time.
So if you're getting Chubb back for the playoffs, sure, but like, does this roster scream playoffs to me, to where Chubb will be effective? No, and I don't think Chubb has really any value until we know when he's coming back.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I mean, it's a lot of question marks. That's what I'm saying. This team's got some weird high upside where if everything works itself out, I could weirdly see this being one of the better teams in the league, just again because of the high touchdowns, but it's a lot of what ifs, a lot of has to go right, a lot of Some of these guys are older, you know, like Zeke's getting older. Devontae Adams is getting older, and some of these, like you said, got question marks on the offense. So Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow could get hurt. They've had histories with that. So overall, like you said, I don't love it. I do think it's got some weird upside, so I could be completely wrong on this one. I mean, let's not forget Tyler mentioned it in the pre-draft chat yesterday. We both had him number 1 last year, and he did absolutely miserable. So we could be completely wrong on these. So, like I said, Rob's got one of those weird teams that could somehow do it. But overall, I do have him 5th in the division. Where do you got him?
Fifth.
All right, nice. Overall,
Yeah. So
Rob.
I don't.
Oh, go ahead. Oh yeah,
No, I don't think we differ for any team so far. So
that's
that's
crazy.
surprising.
Oh, that's weird. Wow, what the fuck? Overall, Rob is in the league 9 years, so he's 1 year away from being in all of them. He's had a really good record, 63 and 45. So again, he knows what to do. He knows how to get it done. 5 playoff appearances in 8 seasons. He's won 5 postseason games. He's lost 3, and he's got 2 championships there, back to back. I believe they were too. So he's done it twice. It's been a while, but he's got a pretty good track record in the league. So we'll see if he can turn it around. Let's go to the last team. D Flower, a worthy Christian. That is going to be Kyle's team. Good old Kyle. Okay. And now he's entering his 8th season in the league in 7 years. He's got 59 wins, 35 losses, the best winning percentage in the league. He could somehow creep up on most wins this year if he starts creeping up on Dana and Dave, which we'll get into in the next division. He has 7 playoff appearances in 7 years. We know that's one of the big streaks we've talked about in the league. He's never missed the playoffs. There's been many times I've not liked this team or multiple, and he just continues to get it done. I think last year was the biggest pull for him to try. I mean, usually his teams get in pretty handedly, so he does a good job in these. But in the playoffs, Crim, he's 3-7. He's never won it. I don't think he's ever been to this championship. I don't have that on here to look. I can look back on the history. I don't think he's ever been to the championship. I could be wrong. What do you think about Kyle's team this year? Clearly, we think the
I'm
same
curious.
because we got the
Yeah,
rankings the same. So
I'm curious
tell me
now.
what I
So
already know.
I'm going to go back to the history. I don't think I mean, I can't really see. I guess I can
You
see
can kind of
who's
look at the
really in it, but I
championship game,
don't.
but yeah, you'd have to look at the
Yeah, I don't. I have to. I'll look in the last little bit. I mean, that's Tyler, Trey, that's Jay and Dana. I mean, it's you don't see Kyle. I mean,
yeah. I
Peter,
don't
you
think
don't
he's
see
been to the
Kyle over here at
championship.
all. I don't think he has either. So like that's something that he needs to kind of get off of his knock it off of his to do list. But as a team, I like the upside of Kyle's team, especially after the trade he made, which he means he needs to make a change also to his name because it no longer applies to his team.
Oh wow,
But
yeah, get a name change in there, dude. What the fuck?
um, going hero RB was his strategy. You could tell he
Burns
didn't
when I
pick
pee.
uh, receivers. I didn't pick another running back until very late. I don't know if he went about it in the way I would have. I mean, obviously, being at 101, you have to, you're pretty much handcuffed to what's left after the board comes and goes, right? So,
Yeah.
Mike Evans, Olave are not horrible receivers. I like Mike Evans, obviously, year after year. I just am afraid that those two guys are not elite enough to where they can overcome the poor quarterback play from both teams. I think Baker last year was an outlier, and I don't think he repeats that same type of season. And Derek Carr is just Derek Carr. I mean, Olave again was serviceable last year, yes, but I don't know if those are guys that you can pair with McCaffrey and carry your team to glory. I could be wrong, obviously, but there isn't a lot here that screams to me. It's one of the top 6 teams in the entire league. But there obviously are pieces here that I like. Kincaid having a piece of Buffalo, happy with it. Still, no Dawson Knox will be involved, so I don't love it as much as you truly can. But just to look at his flex, I like more than I like more than I like Olave, especially at the price he paid for him. And then his bench, I mean, he's got solid pieces if they can get time, but I just putting my faith into a rookie quarterback, like even especially if it's Jaden Daniels, can pay off tenfold. But if he struggles or that offense kind of falls apart, you don't have a secondary option. There are good quarterbacks on the waiver wire, but Kyle paid a hefty price, I felt, in the draft to draft Jaden where he got it. So Kyle was kind of, again, you pick your poison at 101. You're getting the best guy, but you're always waiting. I feel like he felt the pressure each time. And every two picks made one solid pick and then one pick out I went, again, not bad, but just a guy that I don't necessarily trust myself. So when you're going back to back Olave Evans, we're going back to back with, DJ Moore and Kincaid, like those, it's just, there's a lot to be desired here. But again, McCaffrey is McCaffrey. So you can't really write off a team that has the best running back in the league that can do everything.
Exactly. And again, we've talked about it before. It's a coin flip on McCaffrey, but as long as he plays 14, 15, 16, whatever it is, I mean, he's going to be the best running back in fantasy. He's that talented. He's that good in that offense. I mean, even in Carolina, we know, I mean, look at your background. You know how good McCaffrey was. I mean, I know his number's not up there. I don't know what. You got to get CMTs, Krim. Come on, Hubbard.
Oh, he's in
Not
the
bad.
other room.
He's in the other room. Okay, well,
He's
that's
in the
good.
other room.
But you know how good he is. He's been the number one running back in fantasy in Carolina before. You know what he's capable of. And in San Francisco, it's going to be nuts there. So as long as I mean, again, you always got to bring up the health thing, but as long as he plays, that's nasty. So all he needs is anything from the backup running back position. So Jerome Ford starting the first few weeks, he probably feels comfortable with that. Again, he knows he makes his trade, so I'm not going to ding him on, not loving that guy. But again, he's got Aaron Jones, right? He made the trade for Aaron Jones, which I love that move. Yes, Aaron Jones again, I think is a little bit of a question mark, getting his age, where he's at, but I don't see any reason why they're not going to pound the rock even more now with the injury and just feed it to Jefferson. But Vikings are going to be one of those sneaky teams that just kind of keep teams close. But Aaron Jones is going to be a guy that's going to be a dog for them, so hopefully he does well for Kyle. But Jaden Daniels, it's a risk. Again, he's taken a few coin flips this year, and sometimes you have to in fantasy. Is Jaden Daniels a top 5, 6 quarterback in fantasy this year? The ceiling's there. It's possible with the running touchdowns. I do think he might lack an elite receiver. Again, I love Evans. He's always good for just about $1,000 and 7 or 8. I love Olave, but he's good for about $1,000 and 7 or 8. DJ Moore was really good last year, and I really like where he got that pick in the draft. I'm a Bears fan. I like it. But again, there is a lot of mouths to feed in Chicago, and I can't believe those words are coming out of my mouth, but there are. Okay. And I don't know if DJ Moore maybe somehow sees a tick down despite still being the talent, but I still love the pick where he got it. Obviously, too, I don't know if a lot of them just score a lot of touchdowns, though. Outside of Mike Evans, not a lot of those guys are big touchdown guys. So we'll see. But again, more of a nitpick than anything. Nice backup bench, I think, solid all around. He's taking some shots on some other guys, some handcuffs, Charbonnet, Lloyd there. He likes Wicks. One of those guys in Green Bay is going to break out. Zay Flowers is still one of the top targets in Baltimore. So again, I don't hate this bench. There's definitely worse ones. Overall, again, me and you have the same rankings, Krim. I got him third, right?
Yep. Yep. He's my 3A. I feel like truly him and Trey are very, very close to the point where I can't differentiate truly one from 3 and 4. Those two guys group into my 3A, 3B. And I feel like that's an interesting thing I like to pay attention to down the stretch, just to see, Kyle has a record going where he has made the playoffs every year. Could this be the year he doesn't make it just because of the lack of star power at his, receiving core? Maybe, but obviously everybody has the same shot right now to make the playoffs. It's just, I think we'll know early on because Jaden Daniels again will be
right. And that's why I think
the
Kyle
conductor
will be fine, because at the end of the day, he's got McCaffrey and Daniels. And again, I keep using the word coin flip, but again, coin flip, if they play, they could be top 5. We know McCaffrey's top 1 if he plays. And then Evans, Olave, and Moore are, again, kind of models of consistency. So he's got a little bit of that risk, but also with a little bit of that base. But as he said yesterday, his season's done if he loses CMC anyway. But who knows? He makes trades. We see what he's capable of. So I got him 3 in the division. We'll see if he's able to hold. So that's Division 1. Now we move to Division 2, and Division 1 was Peter's division. He got there. Division 2 is Dave's division. Dave was also in the championship last year. He drafted this division. He wanted a little spice. He wanted a little drama. It's a lot of the guys in there. Jordan's also going to be in there. That'll be fun. A little shit talking division, I think you would call it. Let's break this one down. We'll start with myself, Krim. Tell me the good news. Tell me the bad news. What did you think about my draft?
Um, First thing, I was very surprised that you took a Packer quarterback. I was hoping during that round that your homerism kicked in and Jordan Love continued to fall because I just picked Jaden Reed. If I had Jordan
Oh, you were going to
Love,
pick
I was
Love,
very
huh?
happy with that stack. Obviously, we'll get to my team when we do. But as you can see here, Jordan Love, week one, not playing. Eric is afraid of the Philadelphia Eagles on the Friday night in Mexico or wherever the hell they are. So he's rocking Caleb Williams, which isn't the worst thing because you have a stack there, Keenan Allen. Now, again, your team off first glance, your first round pick, Brace Hall. Second round pick was Pacheco coming back. And then you said post draft or pre draft, whatever you can do to grab a tight end, whether it's Laporta as your number one guy, but if Kelsey was there, I don't think Andrews is kind of crept into your mind, but it was Laporta or Kelsey. If they're there, you're going to grab one. Laporta was there, you grabbed him. So you have two top tier running backs who are like Brees Hall was amazing last year, even with just no one under center. They're throwing in the ball, but no one under center. So with Rodgers there and providing more of a threat, obviously it's going to open up the field for him. Checo, everyone is very high on him this year, including me. So I think that he's going to just, if he does what he did last year again, you're happy. Receivers, not the sexiest, obviously. Keenan Allen, Tank Dell. Tank Dell is your receiver one in my eyes, and he can give you that production. I feel like that's Stroud's favorite target. You got to be happy with that. But week in and week out, you're probably going to play Jordan Love. So I feel like your quarterback is a top 10 guy finish the season, and you have a stack there with Dawes if need be. But your flex is Chris Godwin, doesn't score touchdowns, catches a good amount of passes, and is always over 1,000 yards. So again, a lot of consistency there. And then Kenneth Walker, very hit or miss with Kenneth Walker. Depends on how that offense, kind of is this year. But I feel like your team is kind of a team that you strive for every year, and it has balance. I don't think you really go for an approach that has heavy running backs or heavy receivers or heavy, the one position, so a quarterback or tight end. You're usually pretty balanced, and I feel like that shows with how you draft it. Also, hope that pizza is just absolutely not good.
Oh, dude, it's great. And that was perfect timing because I just finished, thanks to Krim. Mm, that's perfect. Here's my thing. I like what you said about my team. I don't disagree, honestly. And you kind of nailed nailed what I did. You know exactly how I like to draft, and that's why it's always kind of fun to see if you pick up on tendencies. There was a thought of maybe doing it, but I just like the running backs that were there. I thought you could get receivers kind of later in the draft. Um, Maybe not elite ones, but I felt like there was still a lot of like 900 to 1,000 yard receivers that are still there in round 5 and 6, and I felt like I could do it then. And if I can get an elite guy in Laporta that could be close to 1,000 yards, maybe I think he could really be the top tight end in fantasy this year. I know sometimes the position's a little unpredictable, but Detroit's going to be nasty. Offense wise with Amon-Ra, Laporta, and Gibbs, I think that offense is going to be tough to stop. So I love Laporta. Tank Dell, like you said, is probably the number one in Houston, maybe. But again, even if he's the two or hopefully they're scoring a lot. That's the plan. But here's my thing. I just think I lack a superstar elite talent that's done it before. I think Brees Hall has a little bit of that. He was injured last year. When he was on the field, he was amazing. Can he do it over 15, 16 games? Pacheco's never quite been that top running back yet, but he's kind of a hopefully safe upside pick. Caleb Williams, again, kind of same thing. Could he be in the top 10? All I need is one of my quarterbacks to be in the top 10. And I think Jordan Love is a guy, I can't believe I'm saying this, has a chance to be top 5, 6. I think he's got MVP potential. So I like my balance of my team. I really do. I think it's solid. Again, I think I'm just lacking a little bit of that maybe star power, superstar guaranteed like guy. Because like you said, Godwin's probably good for 1,000 and maybe 4 or 5. Kenneth Walker might be good for 1,005 or 6. So again, I don't maybe have that guy that's just going to go completely off, except for that. I think Brees Hall could be that guy. But overall, I like my team. Um, is it risky enough to or good enough to be elite? Maybe did I take it too safe? Did I do exactly what I needed to do? And some of these guys are just going to not play well. Who knows? Overall, Krim, I got myself fourth in the division. Where do you got me?
Funny enough, the balance for me works just because I know that you can get good weeks from Pacheco and Brees, and I know Jordan Love again will be a good enough quarterback to carry you. Uh, I have you, and it shakes up how it goes. Obviously, we'll break down the rest of our teams, but I have you one.
Oh, let's go. Okay. I mean, I like to usually be modest. I don't usually like to put myself one or two because I feel like when I do that, I'm not gonna lie, I screw myself. So I just put myself four. So we'll see. You got me one. All right. Let's go. All right. I'm not gonna sit here and it's fine. I
Yeah,
hope
we're
you're
gonna sit here and yeah, I hope I'm wrong. Hope I'm wrong
I know.
now.
I
But
just hope you're not
moving,
cursing me. I hope you're not doing the Kyle thing
yeah,
where you're like,
no, no, that's we'll go through the teams and I'll justify how I picked you one because moving on to King of the Hill, aka
yeah,
King of the Herminator, aka
do it.
where are the Chargers? Oh, Lama Conky's there, so he has one. Dave, just again looking at his team, where he picked, I think he was second or third, something like that. He was up
Yeah.
there. Obviously, he started his team with Tyreek Hill. How did the rest of that team fare in your eyes?
I think Dave has an elite quarterback, top five. I think he's got an elite 100-yard recept or 100 reception receivers. I mean, I think you got Tyreek Hill's going to get 100 grabs. Cooper Cup, again, there's always that question. We're going to say it for a lot of guys, but if he goes back to norm, I do think he takes a little away from Nakua, and maybe Cup does go back to the 90, 100 kind of catch Cup. Nico Collins could be, again, it's another Houston guy. One of these guys is going to obviously break out. You don't think they eat away from each other too much, but it could. But overall, like I said, the other flex, he's taking a shot on a Charger. I don't hate it there. I don't love the running backs. I don't love the running backs. Obviously, I'm not a big Pollard fan and not a big Kamara fan, but they should be the ones there. Maybe Spears gets in there a little bit, but I do think they are the solidified ones. I do think they could get 8, 9 touchdowns and maybe 1,000 yards. It's there. I think it's possible. Big wide receiver bench. He's got a lot of bench receivers. Jameson Williams could be another guy there in Detroit, depending on what happens. Leggett, could he be the number one in Carolina?
No,
No. Grim says no. Okay. Wasn't he a first? No, they didn't have a first round pick. Thank you.
he was a
Um,
first round pick. They traded up
oh, that's
a pick
right.
or two to get him in the first round to make sure they got that fifth year.
But you're saying
I
you don't think
do.
he's the number one there?
I not this year. Not this year.
Okay.
Future, he probably can be. This year, no.
Okay. And Mike Williams, yeah, it's fine, whatever. I don't hate Dave's team. I actually think he's again Pollard, Kamara, again, not huge fans of Pollard, but again, they could kind of get it done. Again, don't love it, don't hate it. I think Dave's team is solid. Oh,
I
this is our
don't.
first big disagreement.
I don't feel the same. I just think again,
And I
and
didn't
that's
even
just
mention
how,
Kittle, but he gets injured a lot.
and that's just how I draft. And it'll obviously go to show when you look at my team. Running backs are not a dime a dozen. However, having three on your roster cannot be how you construct it.
Yeah, that's not great.
Kamara
Yeah.
gets dinged up or struggles, you have to play him. Tony Pollard, he's going to. I think he is in the up. He has the upper hand there in
Good
that
point.
split. But I do think that Spears. I think it's a 60-40 split to begin the
Okay.
season because Spears played well last year. They won't just take away his role, but they may diminish it for Pollard who came in. And I kind of feel like they're kind of the same back in a sense. So Pollard is going to need volume to get to where you need him to be, and he's not going to get that elite volume like he did when he was in Dallas.
Right.
Tyreek, obviously a stud. Cooper Cup, I like him a lot. So those two guys are your best players, and obviously having Jalen Hurts as top tier quarterback, it's very helpful. But your two receivers are going to have to carry you through the entire year because Kittle, unless it's his birthday or whatever, he can go and get 3 grabs or 30 yards, or he's going to have 143. He's very, very, very good or very, very bad. That's what you get from Kittle for the most part. Nico Collins, he's stuck in a role where I think that he's going to look okay still. But I still Tank Dell later, where you did. The price of Nico Collins this year was too much for me. So Dave kind of went and paid a pretty penny for that, this draft position. And then Ladd McConkey can be the guy there for sure, but obviously it's yet to be seen because he's a rookie. And then again, Zach Moss, a fine running back. He's going to be probably the starter to begin the year in Cincinnati, but that's the only running back you have that's not
Right.
starting. So while you have an abundance of receivers, you have two receivers in that receiver slot that you're not changing out. You are keeping Tyreek, you are keeping Cooper Kupp every week. Unless they are hurt, they stay there. You're gonna play Ladd McConkey because he's a Charger every week.
Yeah.
So
So
he has
why
something to
stack up on so
watch.
many receivers, right?
So
Yeah.
why have so many receivers, right?
Yeah.
There's no reason for it. So that's why I know that Kamara can get hurt. He's older now. He can get dinged up. And
And
Pollard is
Pollard's kind
not.
of been a one-hit wonder, right? I mean, Pollard's
Yeah,
kind of been, I mean,
we haven't seen much from him after that 1 year in Dallas. So if that's what you're relying on every week at running back, it's very hard to win games because you cannot change them. You cannot change those guys because you simply don't have enough players to even play a different running back if you wanted to because you only have one. Could you drop Xavier, Mike Williams to get one off the waiver wire? Sure, but it's until someone gets hurt, you're just kind of throwing darts at a wall at that point. So I don't like Dave's team.
oh well, all right. And I do agree with you on a lot of your points. Like, why load up on so many receivers? And I'd get at that point in the draft, there probably literally was no maybe running backs, but at the same time, like you gotta, like you said, you gotta hope if Tyreek Hill and Cooper Kupp aren't playing for you every week, then something's going really wrong. But who knows if he can somehow make a trade or something. But Kamara and Pollard, like you said, who knows how long their leashes are? Kamara could get hurt. I do see what you mean. And the other thing too is sometimes we look at benches and I kind of look at a couple names and I'm like, who's that? Where are they at in that team? Benches can sometimes matter a lot. And I feel like a lot of his bench, Jerry Judy, we know what he can do. He gets hurt a lot. Cleveland, like you said, Zach Moss, starting running back, that's solid. Jamison Williams has yet to break out in the league. Jacoby Myers, we kind of know what he is. Mike Williams, we kind of know what he is. So there's not really that bench that can like break out and get
Yeah,
something. So it is interesting.
yeah,
I'm going to
and
use. Go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. No, you're good. I got just Jameson Williams to me. I know people this year like him because that offense is sexy and it's nice to look at. But even with Jameson and losing someone like I forget who they even had, like I think Lee Raymond's still there. But Jameson had opportunities last year. He was dinged up, yes, but he had a chance to kind of come into his own last year, didn't do it. I don't think that this year is any different. So I feel like Jameson is kind of not a lost cause, but we know what you're getting from him. So I feel like while he looks shiny on that bench, he's still more of like a Mike Williams esque player, which
Sure.
isn't really a rosterable guy.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you do hope at least, like I said, Jalen Hurts with the rushing. If you're drafting Jalen Hurts, you're hoping he's a top 3 or 4 fantasy quarterback. Maybe Kamara and Pollard can get in the end zone 10 times. You hope Tyreek gets in the end zone 10 times. You hope Cup maybe Kittle. So there is some high upside here. That's why I have them 3. But I do see where there is a lot of question marks where this could go really, really wrong. So I do agree with you. I did want to put myself 3, but I didn't quite want to do that. That's why I had myself 4. So I'm going to use your terminology. I'll have him 3A. I'm 3B. I think we're kind of fighting right for that playoff spot. You said you didn't like him. Where do you have him?
I don't like his team somehow, some way, just because the two receivers I like a lot. I have him fourth in our division.
4th. All right. Sounds good. Let's go to the next team then. So that was, oh, wait, hold on. I forgot to say, dang it. Um, that happens sometimes. My Dave in the league is 67 and 55 in 6 years. Or he's made the playoffs 6 times. He's an OG member. He's made the playoffs 6 years and 9 times. But in the playoffs, kind of similar to Kyle's track record, he's made the playoffs a lot, 6 and 9. But 2 and 6 in the playoffs. Can't quite get it done in the playoffs. And then I did forget to go over mine. 64 and 58. So my teams either seem to be really good or very not good. I kind of find that out pretty early. I have made the playoffs 6 years and 9 times, 7-3 playoff record. A couple of them I've scraped by, but it's happened. And then 3-time winner. Hopefully I hold on to that crown. Hopefully I
We could have just skipped that. We could have just skipped
we
that
could have.
entire
I
time.
know we could have, but
Could have
I
just
had to go
skipped
back
that.
and do
We
it.
should have
I had
probably
to
just
make it a
skipped that.
moment. Let's talk about baby back Gibbs. I like it. There we go. The new Jordan. Do I dare say, the cooler? No, I'm just kidding, Jordan. But this is Jordan. There's Crimmy or Tyler Penny, as we're calling him tonight. Let's talk about his team. His pre-draft rankings did not save. That's our newspaper headline on the sideline fantasy. Jordan's pre-draft rankings did not save. That's one of the columns. It was a big news moment during the draft. Overall, what do you think about Jordan's team?
Oh, of Jordan's team? Not sure because we're on my team. So
Oh, that's your
this
team.
is me, Tyler Penny. Yeah. As you can
Oh,
see,
you know what?
I'm
I
playing
saw
Big
his
Homie
face.
Cornbread, which is other Jordan. Yes.
I saw his
So
face. I didn't see your baby back Gibbs. Okay, that's a clever name. Let's talk about your team. Okay, your team. I'll start it off then. Oh, you know what? Hold on. No, actually, you're going to start it off, but I'm going to tell everyone your record. You've been in the league every year. Okay, you're 64-58, same record as me, but you've made the playoffs another time than me. You've made the playoffs 7 out of 10 times, which is again tied for the most in the league. You and Kyle have the most playoff appearances in the league, so you're consistent. You have good teams; they tend to get in, but in the playoffs, you come close multiple times. I think you've been in the championship once or twice. 4-7 in the playoffs, though, have not quite gotten all the way there. Tell me, just give me your thought process on your draft. What were you thinking? Give me a summer.
just let it come to me at that point. I mean, drafting at 10, I knew I couldn't. Obviously, first round wasn't gonna really reach. Although people thought that going after Gibbs was a reach, but he was an elite running back last year. And coming back, obviously, I said I'm gonna coming back in the second round was a really I didn't like the receivers. So the Drake Londons, the Olaves, the Marvin Harrisons, like those guys, I wasn't paying those Nico Collins. I wasn't paying those prices for those receivers that early in the second round. So I doubled down, went Kyron Williams, two very good running backs with a lot of volume last year. But then from there, I kind of didn't fall into a position where I had to keep taking running backs, but knowing that the league was and usually is, and we can see with teams like a Dave's team that has three RBs on it, I have three running backs that are just starting and they're pretty decent running backs. Kyron
Yeah,
Gibbs and then Ramondre, who I picked late up in the draft. But round three had to go Jalen Waddle. I like Jalen Waddle a lot as a wide receiver one, and I feel like my running backs are going to have to carry me. But I do like the look of the receivers. Jalen Waddle is in a good offense. I have his quarterback, so hopefully that helps me a little bit, with a little bit of a bump. Deontay Johnson is the number one guy in Carolina. Could he, does that, is he somebody who gets 1,000 yards and has four touchdowns? He could be. He could be that kind of guy, like a Chris Godwin, but I feel like personally, this offense is built to have someone like that still get 100 grabs just because of the quarterback we have and the offense that we have in Carolina. Mark Andrews can replace a receiver, and in my eyes, obviously having an elite tight end is pretty big. And then someone like a Jaden Reed, who I think was Jordan Love's number one guy last year. And if you're going to attach a number one guy to a quarterback like that, and it's a top 5, 6 quarterback in your eyes, fantasy wise, I'm pretty happy with that being a flex option. But to me, it was a lot of. I know what I got out of my first two picks. Now I'm taking kind of either dudes who I know will have volume, and like a Deontay and a Ramondre and a Mark Andrews, or a lot of guys who can break out. I mean, rookie receivers, I have Xavier Worthy that I got from Kyle. I have Brian Thomas Jr. Those are two guys that, well, are unproven because they're rookies, either in a good offense as Xavier Worthy, who I feel like if they can reprise the Tyreek Hill role, he can be very good for fantasy. And then Brian Thomas, he kind of is looking where he's kind of carved out a wide receiver two role there in Jacksonville. And then obviously running backs with Flyers, J.K. Dobbins and Kamani Badal might end up on Dave's team. Looking at Dave's team, we just looked at it. I might just swap him to Dave to give him a Chargers running back deal that he can
he would
cheer
probably
on.
love that. You might already have something working here, Mister Trade
Yeah,
Guy.
I
You might have
I, I
something
had not
working.
spoken to Dave. I spoke to Dave earlier after the draft. I tried to get Tyreek Hill by giving him Waddle and a running back. He told me he wanted more. I said no, so
All
we
right,
left it
let's
at
go.
that.
Trade
But
season is already upon us, folks. There
yeah,
we go.
but also my team again with Blake Corum. He's an insurance policy for Kyron, but somehow, some way, could find his way to be a valuable piece with Kyron. Who knows? There's been a lot of talk there too. I just obviously the way I feel is my running backs are the heart of my team, and the rest of it just needs to kind of fall into place, and then I'll be very content with how I went about it. But I feel like I just kind of let the draft come to me, and it created didn't create really the balance that I wanted, but I'm not mad at how the receivers shook out.
Yeah, and the trade, and like I said, looking at the trade, because obviously there was a trade that happened between you and Kyle. We kind of talked about Kyle's team. He had Aaron Jones. Traded away, or you got Dobbins, Worthy, and Mitchell. So Dobbins again made of glass. That's what I'm worried about. He has the talent made of glass. Hopefully he's out there. Again, Chargers are going to run the ball out. We're hoping he's in your sake getting some carries. Worthy was a first round pick. Like you said, he could be Mahomes' guy. He could be the guy that goes out there. Maybe Rice. Can they have another? Is it against Mahomes to have two guys getting 1,000, three guys getting 1,000? I don't think so. I mean, it's Mahomes, right? So who knows what they're going to do there? But here's my thing. This is the only thing I'm worried about. I will say this. Your team is actually probably. I was actually going to ask you, like, at the end of the draft, like, what team is the hardest for you to kind of predict? What team was kind of the hardest for you? To me, it's yours. To me, your team was actually kind of the hardest one for me to kind of just put my finger on. Do I like it? Do I not like it? Do I like it? It was tough for me. And the way I'm looking at your team for the most part here is I think there's good running backs. You actually probably would have drafted exactly how I would have. I would have gone, Kyron Gibbs or some type of running backs there. They are still a little unproven over multiple seasons. You know me, I'm a Notre Dame fan. I love Kyron Williams, but small body could get banged up. Gibbs has a little bit of injury issues, missing games. He's not going to be a 20 touch guy. He's going to be a big home run threat, which is fine. Like I said, I don't hate the picks. I probably would have done it myself. Um, but they good receivers. But here's the thing: I think they could Deontay Johnson could be the number one in Carolina, and Bryce Young showed that Thielen, he could have a number one and do really well. So you're hoping he steps into that role, maybe even more talented. I can see a world where Deontay Johnson has, like you said, 800 yards, 900 yards, 5 touchdowns. I could see a world where Jalen Waddle, I mean, he is the number two in Miami. As long as Tyreek's there, he is the number two. Waddle's always 1,000, so that's great. But he's 1,000, and that's great, solid. Mark Andrews, third, fourth tight end in the league, solid. They don't throw a lot, but solid. Stevenson, Patriots running back, hopefully he's a big touchdown hog. They're going to be throwing the ball a lot. Who knows? Reed could be the number. There's just a lot of big question marks here, and I don't know if I'm buying into a lot of the question marks. And that's what I'm saying. It's just it's a really tough. It was a really tough team for me to peg because again, I think you have great depth on the bench. You got Corum, Handcuff. You got Lawrence, who I think could break out, maybe be better than Tua this year. You got Thomas, or you got could be Lawrence is number one. Like I said, Worthy. So your team was really, really tough for me to peg, Krem. I didn't know if I should put you two. I didn't know if I should put you 4, 5. But overall, that's where I did put you. I put you fifth.
That's awful, man. That's awful. And I will get
Dude,
into
I'm
it
sorry. I'm
with the last couple of
sorry.
teams, but that's fine. I'll just now I'll stack myself up to these teams, but it does make me curious to see how
We're
you rank
Here's what's
the
crazy is
rest of
we were
this.
dead same on Division One, and we're clearly way different on
Yeah,
Division Two.
we're off. I have myself third. I have myself third because I do have three teams. Obviously, Dave at fourth, and
Yeah.
then two more teams below him that just
Wow, we got
at
them way
first
different.
glance don't look great. So I'm curious to see. Obviously, the two spots open. The one spot is open, and that frankly scares me for you because I don't know what the hell you're looking
Dude, I could be so wrong on this. Like I said, I could be
at.
so
I
wrong. We've done it
I'm gonna
before.
say that you are. I'm gonna say that you are, but I mean, we'll move this on. We got 30
Yeah.
minutes, which is a good amount of time
Yeah.
still. But I need to know. I got to know where this
Dude,
guy
I'm
is.
just telling you right now, your
I
team was the hard. Your
if
team.
and that's fine. But if I look at this and you're telling me this is the best team, we're done. So we'll move on to your boyfriend, your lover boy, your pal, Mr. Auto drafted for a little bit. Dana, tell me what you think about this team, dude.
Well, Dana, he enters the league as an OG member. 65 and 57. He's got one more regular season win than us. But here's the crazy one, and this is always one of the crazy stats in the league, Krim. You've made the playoffs 7 times. He's got one more regular season win than you. He's made the playoffs twice. That's nuts. So he's always had really solid teams. You can always count on him to have solid teams. He makes trades, he gets it done, he makes it work. Just hasn't quite gotten into the playoff dance many times. But when he has gotten there, he's 3-2. I think he's actually been in maybe 2 championships, or he's at least gotten close if he's got a 3-2 playoff record. So with that being said, overall, Dana's team obviously wasn't there the first few picks. I didn't necessarily love what it did, but again, he's got an elite pass catcher in JJ. I don't I mean he kind of showed last year. Doesn't matter who his quarterback is, so I think he'll be fine. Maybe not as high as you'd love him in past, but I mean he's still JJ, right? You could argue best receiver in football, right? Marvin Harrison, I'm buying in on it. I still think he's an 11, 1,200 yard guy, 8, 9 touchdowns. Like, again, I really do love Dane's pass catchers. I think they do a really good job there. I think his running backs could be touchdown hogs. Gibbs is more of the home run threat. Montgomery might be more of the goal line guy. Jacobs is going to be a hog in Green Bay. CJ Stroud could be top 5 or 6 quarterback with all of his weapons. Flex are sketchy. I don't like Eckler. I think he's dying this year. That's just my opinion. I don't know. That's just my gut. Adunze could be the 2, could be the 3, could be. It's just a question mark. I don't love it. I don't. Kelsey. Obviously, you gotta love Kelsey. You do, but I'm just worried one of these years he's gonna fall off. But other than that, it's Kelsey. Like, I'm not. How do you not like that? But I did take Laporta over him. So, but overall, I don't know. I'm not sure on the bench. Like I said, I think there's a lot of questions. Again, some of these guys really, again, this is what I kind of said earlier. Some of these outside of Darren Waller, who's retired, he's got to cut him. Some of these guys could be huge, big guys that are home run hitters that you didn't think of beginning of the season. But to me, it's a lot of guys that are big question marks. Shakir could be the guy, maybe, but there, to me, there's a lot of question marks on this team. But again, this division was just harder to peg for me than Division One, clearly, because we're so different on it. But I'm not in love with Dane's team. You?
I'm surprised that you're not because you're in love with Dana. But I'm not in love with Dane's team either. I do obviously like the startup that he had with JJ Marvin. Like obviously, it auto drafted those guys. Kelsey, I think that this year's not the year Kelsey falls off. He
Right.
may he
Yeah.
may take a step back in regards to his talent in a sense, but the receivers on that team are better
Yes.
this year. So I think it opens up more space for Kelsey. So I feel like he may not fall off. He also may not um, exceed what he did last year. So he may be the same old Kelsey from last year, and that's perfectly fine for a team. Um, Flexes, yeah, Eckler, Odunze, not big fans of. Stroud, I feel like is fine. You have Purdy, so like you're okay at QB. You don't need to play Stroud every week. So I wouldn't say he's an every week kind of guy. He was really good last year, but I do think that he takes a little bit of a step back going into this year. But yeah, don't love it. Don't love obviously how it left him also with just 3 running back on his roster with Jacobs, Montgomery, and Eckler. Eckler, that RB2 on that team. Montgomery, RB1B at the very most. It's not RB2 on that team. So running back is a question mark there. And I feel like, we'll go into week 1, we'll go into week 2, we'll play these out the way they are. But I feel like with some of these teams, like a Dave or a Dana, you may see some movement quick because of the lack of running backs. And I feel like
Yeah.
he has a lot of pass catchers, and running backs aren't always going to be your end all be all. I do think you still need one on this team. I don't love it. I'm surprised he's not your number 2 because your rankings are absolutely somehow some way bonkers. But for me, he's at 6.
Yeah, he's at 6 for me too. Yeah, I mean, like I said, Dane's
Wow, we agree on that, man.
we did.
Whoa.
Like I said, Dana. Like I said, again, this division's hard to peg for me because again, he's got JJ and Harry. Like he's got really good elite superstar. So it's just tough. We've been wrong before, but I got him 6 right now. Let's go to the next team. That is going to be Tucker in a waistband. That is Tyler Penny. He's going to be entering his 6th year in the league. He's 33 and 35, so a little bit below 500, but he's made the playoffs 2 in 5 years, and he's 2 and 2. So he's kind of won a game, lost a game, this and that, gotten close sometimes, almost there before. But overall, clearly, again, we're different on rankings. So obviously, we're going to differ in rankings, maybe on these last couple teams. What do you think of Tyler's team? What do you think of his draft? What do you think he did
Um,
right? What do you think he did wrong?
so Tyler himself doesn't love AJ Brown. I do. So I do like that part of it. Derrick Henry being your guy, I'm happy with that as my RB1. Just don't really love the rest of it. Swift, question mark, 3rd team in 3 years. So you're kind of questioning, what he gets out of that offense. Not a bad offense to be in, but I do think that with the mouths to feed there and Khalil Herbert kind of still taking away some of his snaps, he won't be the Swift we got last year in Philadelphia. Um, Josh Allen's obviously a top tier dude, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, fantasy wise. And then you're going Brock Bowers, T. Higgins, Brian Robinson. Like his team is not bad. I would say it's kind of a black team in my eyes. He has running back depth. He has Rico Dowdle. He has Julian McLaughlin and Javante. He can pick up on those guys if they hit. I just don't. Just looking at it on paper, it's just kind of to me.
Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong on it. I don't know, but like I said, I think Josh Allen. You're hoping. I mean, he could be. He usually should be the number one quarterback in fantasy because he could throw for 35 and he's going to run for 8 to 10. Derrick Henry again. He could. I think his yards might come down a little bit. His usage might come down, but I mean, is if he plays almost every game, I think he's going to have 12, 13, 14 touchdowns. I'm a big Derrick Henry fan. That's no surprise, but I think he could still. He's 30. He's not 33. But again, it could be a sharp fall off. I'm pretty high on Swift. Again, I know I could be buying into the Bears hype, but he's a big home run threat. He's gonna catch some passes. He's gonna be that exact weapon the Bears need out of the backfield and that change of pace guy. So I'm always kind of high on Swift. He seems to be a big home run threat in fantasy. He can have those 30, 40 point weeks. AJ Brown's consistent. Amari Cooper shows he can get it done in Cleveland, consistent. Brock Bowers, I think honestly, I'm really high on that train. I think he could be top three, top four fantasy tight end this year. I very much think he's the Laporta of last year. I'm just buying in on that. T. Higgins, again, talk about as long as Burrow's healthy and everything, he's gonna probably maybe have 1,000. Brian Robinson starting running back, hopefully in Washington for him. I like Tyler's team a lot. I think it's really balanced. I don't love the bench. I don't. Some of these guys could be very hit or miss. Who knows? I do like Addison. I like that he's almost at a grand, but again, with the quarterback question marks, who knows? So really, I do really honestly love the starting lineup because I think it's got a lot of consistencies. I think it's got a lot of touchdowns. I think it's got some top heavy elite talent in Allen and Brown and possibly Henry. I like Tyler's team a lot, dude. I got him second.
Yeah, and that doesn't surprise me. I just don't. It's hard because to have him even below Day, but I just like the idea of Tyreek Hill and Cooper Cup on the same team so much so that
Sure.
it's
Yeah. I mean,
hard
it's
it was hard
that
to
could be
push
elite,
it
right?
was hard
Yeah.
to push him under Tyler, but I had Tyler fifth.
Okay. Wow. Tyler fifth. So that's again big differences in this division. That's awesome that we were that same on that first division and we're this different so far in division two. And it's division we're in. That's crazy.
Yeah, so
All right.
it's
Oh,
surprising.
yeah. Let's do it. Let's go to the other Jordan's team, Krim. Clearly we're different on this one again. What do you like about it? What do you not like about it?
I'm surprised that you're so low on this team because of the things that I think I like. I think that you also like. The start of Saquon Barkley and Jonathan Taylor to me is a very good start. To follow up again, and I feel like I weigh the running backs heavily here, but they're very good running backs in very good situations. The receivers to me, while aren't sexy, I feel like Christian Kirk, did solid last year, and DK Metcalf is DK Metcalf. I feel like he's hard to get to go away. He's pretty consistent himself. Kyle Pitts, I feel like, again, although he's a Falcon, Kirk Cousins did a very good job with Hawkinson last year when he was healthy. So I feel like he can do the same with a more athletic running or tight end with Pitts. And then Mixon, don't love Mixon as a running back, but again, it's an ongoing joke I hear in the community. He gets so much volume that he just becomes viable. And then Keon Coleman, to me, I feel like he's one of those guys, and I like those guys a lot this year. He's a rookie in a high-powered offense. He can, bring some value to the table for sure. So the running backs again here, and also like my team, are the engine inside of this, well-oiled machine. And I think that those two are top tier guys. And if they're healthy, that's the biggest concern for most running backs in the league. But these two especially, if they are healthy, it's probably the best duo in the league. But that also is hard to do with Saquon and Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing with this team. I think, and I was super wrong, obviously, last year saying Tyler was the number one team. The more I look at this team, obviously, there's a lot. This, I think you got to take risks in fantasy, and this has to be like the biggest, riskiest team, but also the juiciest team in the league. Because if Joe Burrow plays 17 games, he's probably top 5 fantasy quarterback, maybe MVP numbers. Saquon, if you're telling me Saquon and Taylor play 17 games, outside of CMC, that's 2 and 3 right there. I mean, Barkley with the talent in Philly, Jonathan Taylor, we know what he can do. He's an absolute hog, 20-25 touches a game. To me, that's running back 2-3. So I love that. Kirk, we'll see. Like I said, it could fall off a little bit. Metcalf, maybe they don't throw as much. I don't know. That's a little bit where I'm worried at. But Kyle Pitts, Atlanta, I think he could have a grand this year. I think Joe Mixon, I've always been a Joe Mixon fan. Houston, we'll see there. Like I said, I'm a little bit more down on Mixon just because the last couple of years he's been on a good team and he's kind of struggled. I do think he's somewhat lost a step. But when we're talking Barkley, Taylor, and Mixon, you're talking in a world, again, I can see it where Mixon has 11, 1,210 touchdowns. I mean, there's the possibilities there. So I really, really like what Jordan's assembled here. I think he's done a good job. Yes, I do think there's somewhat of a receiver concern, but Coleman could be the one. He could always trade off one of these running backs and get two like really solid
Yeah.
receivers, or a receiver and a decently average running back. Like he's got the ability, because this could be the top team in the league with all these dudes being top 5 at their position almost. Burrow, Barkley, Taylor, Pitts, right? Maybe even Mixon, Metcalf, who knows? He's up. Or it could be a team where, oh no, Burrow's been hurt, Barkley's been hurt, Taylor's been hurt, Mixon's been hurt, Kirk's been hurt. Oh shit. Oh no. So it's big boom or bust for Jordan this year. I'll buy into the boom just because I never do my rankings based off injury, but it's hard to not look at this team and be a little bit worried about the injury concerns. But again, if you're telling me most of those guys play 15 plus games, I think Jordan's team is the number 1 team in the division.
Yeah, he's two for me. He's one of the top guys if they all stay healthy. Obviously, it's a big risk, but that's what you have to do in these leagues to cement yourself. So big shoes to fill here, and hopefully week 1 he falls short. The rest of the time, kind of keep it going.
Heck yeah, man. All right. So I got him 1. You got him where? 1?
I got him
No,
2.
2. That's right. You had me 1. Okay, that's right. And then that leaves us with, is that it?
That's it. That's
That's it.
that, that's
That's
our
all
division
12.
right there.
Okay, so let's do it. Let's run back the divisions real quick. And do you have an overall 1 through 12?
Yeah.
Now, just curiosity, do some of them switch up based on division?
Yes. The I can give you. I mean, I guess I have playoffs put out. I got everything, so I feel
Yeah,
like
okay, here we go. Let's just do it. In Division 1, I had in Division 1, I had Chad 1, Peter 2, Kyle 3, Trey 4, Rob 5, Jay 6. So overall, I got Chad, Peter, and Kyle. I mean, it's three in each division. Chad, Peter, and Kyle right now are my playoff teams in Division 1. Give me yours.
yeah, that's the one spot where in that division we swapped. Peter and Chad for me were
Oh,
swapped. Peter
sorry,
was
no,
one.
sorry. I
Yeah,
said that
so I
wrong.
was gonna say
My bad.
them. Yeah, they were
So I said that wrong. Sorry. Peter,
locked.
Chad, Kyle, Trey, Rob, Jay.
So yeah, so Peter, Chad, Kyle, Trey is 3A, 3B. Rob and Jay for me in that division.
That's
The
right.
playoff teams there are Peter, Chad, and Trey takes Kyle over in that
All
3
right.
role because
There's
of
that 3A,
that 13.
3B.
So Kyle then misses the playoffs for the first time.
Oh, wow. You heard it here first. All right. All right. So, again, we agree on the 1 through 6 for the most part. Krim's got his 3A, 3B there. He thinks Trey gets in. But we both do think Peter, Chad, Kyle / Trey, Rob, Jay kind of lead that division there. All right. Interesting. Division 2. I got Jordan, the Detroit one, at 1, Tyler at 2, Dave at 3, myself at 4. Again, I kind of said the same 3A, 3B thing there. I like my team, but I don't love it. Krim 5, Dane 6. So I got Jordan, Tyler, and I'll say Dave. Like I said, I'll come in and surprise. We'll see if I can get it done. And I'll Krim and Dane rounded it out. Yourself, what do you got?
Yeah. So we share one playoff team in our division, which is Jordan himself. I have you, Jordan, myself, Dave, Tyler, Dana. So coming out of our division, it doesn't change. My top 3 would be you, Jordan, and me.
All right. Overall, mine does switch up a little bit here, but I got Peter 1, Chad 2, Jordan 3, Tyler 4, Kyle 5, Dave 6, myself 7, Trey 8, Krim 9, Dane 10, Rob 11, and Jay 12. And again, Krim, you're the hardest team for me. You could be 3, you could be. I
Yeah,
mean, it's just tough. It's
it's
tough.
it's okay, man. We'll live with it. So mine is Peter 1 overall, Chad 2, yourself 3, Jordan 4. I gave myself a top 5 at 5. Trey jumps Kyle in overall ranking at 6. Kyle, Dave, Tyler, Rob, Dana, and we agree here for sure with Dave or Jay being the worst team in the league.
Yes, agreed. Yep. That's gonna be a tough one to come back from. But again, he's done it before. We'll see if he can do it again. Overall, Krim, who do you think I mean, we both say Peter's the top team in the league. Are you saying he's the champ?
No, I don't. I don't think that Peters team, and I'll just kind of look at it again here quickly. I don't wouldn't get right in any team here as a champion. Usually, we can kind of see a team like, okay, that team clear cut is pretty damn good. I like Peters' team a lot. I just also know that things can go very left very quickly. If Rasheed Rice, I don't think he gets suspended at all. If that happens, now you're running with Christian Watson as your wide receiver two, or in Jigba, or
Sure.
Palmer, or Thielen.
Yep.
That's a big drop off for Rasheed Rice. Gus Edwards, if he doesn't win if he's not the 1A there, you're grasping for straws there at the flex. Christian Watson, slew of injuries early in his career, could force you to turn to your bench, which isn't that great. So I do think he has the best starting core. I don't think I'm writing him in as a champion.
And that's the tough thing too. And it's kind of interesting because I think fantasy baseball is like we kind of talked about this on the pod on like our draft thing or whatever. But I think fantasy baseball is a little bit easier to predict because you got so much of the roster and you can do not maybe easier to predict, but football's tough because it's a lot of teams just seem similar and there's this and that. You kind of like this, you kind of like there. It's harder to find a gap because it is just the running backs, the receivers, the tight end, and who you like and who you don't like. So it's not necessarily easier or harder to predict, but we've been really wrong before. We've been really wrong. We've been some in some ways we've been really right before. So it's tough, and a lot of it, like you said, comes down to injury, and it's just tough like that. How and obviously a lot of trades. Like we know you're going to make 4 trades before the season starts. So I don't think there's, and the point I'm kind of getting at is I don't think there's a big gap between like 1 and 4. I could see the third best team winning. I could see the fourth best team winning. I don't think there's like do you think there's based on what you said, you don't think there's a clear cut number one, number two? It could kind of
No,
fiddle all around there.
yeah, I feel like any playoff team, um, not that I obviously again you can look at it weeks down the line and we're saying something different, but I truly think that 1 through 6, anyone has a shot there, and I'm not writing anybody off. Even the teams that I picked for the playoffs, yeah, those are those guys. But looking at 7, 8, even 9, like those guys can creep in for sure very easily. So I think that there's a lot. While Peter's number 1, there's a lot of parity about to happen. I think that because teams are so heavy on one position or the other, that week in and week out, we'll see wide receiver weeks, we'll see running back weeks. We'll see tight end weeks where one of them scores 3 touchdowns and you're winning off of that. So everyone is very, a lot of the teams are very strong in one or the other. There are only a
Yeah.
handful of teams that are very, I would say balanced, like yourself. Just to bring up an example, but it's gonna go one way or the other for these teams a lot of these weeks because of the lack of star power in a sense for those positions. So
Yeah.
it's very hard to just predict those things.
It is. It is. Yeah. And like I said, I don't think there's any like big gap. I don't think like, oh my God, I love these two teams more than any other two teams. I think it's pretty there's a lot of parity and a lot can go wrong, a lot can happen. So we'll see what happens here. Any last thoughts here, Krim, before we wrap up and give this out to the people and see how much we get shit on for what we said?
No, I'm excited to get going. Obviously, anyone who needs a running back, hit my line. I've
There
got
you go.
plenty of them. So Dave, looking at you, buddy.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Again, it's awesome. Season 10. I know a lot of us have been around for a long time, but even Jordan, who's entering his second year, he seems like he's been a really good member. Fun to have. Made the playoffs last year. See if he can do it again. Finished 7-7, got in. So, again, thanks everybody. 10 years. This is awesome. Let's keep it going. We'll try to do this like we said in the other show a little bit more weekly. We'll see if we can. So, see you soon. Good luck.